Hi everyone, and in this video we're going to take a look at importing your animations into the game engine and how to work with them a bit inside of the game engine once they're in there. In the last video you were to have taken this character and apply 5 animations to it in a similar manner like you're expected to do for major assignment 1 on your own. Now you could combine all the animations into one FBX file like I did for the last example and kind of reviewing this whole pipeline. Or you could have them as separate FBX files. They could all be separate FBX files and they could be retargeted to your character inside of Unity, which is completely fine as well. There's no advantage to doing it one way or the other. It's mainly just organization. And they both will operate the same exact way in my experience. So, I wanted to show you guys that you can combine all the animations into one file if you need to, and they'll all your separate takes will come in into the game engine. But you could have all the separate takes be individual files as well and bring them into Unity. Just a little bit of a heads up there. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to import the animation asset that we exported, the FBX file. So I'll right click the assets folder and go to import new asset, and then select the game girl with animation that we created last time. And basically when she comes in, you can see we've got the model, the rig, and there's no materials on it. And as you've heard in the other video, there's kind of like this updated material import that's coming into Unity now, and sometimes when you export things you have to use this external materials legacy and then hit apply, and what that'll do is it'll bring in all of those particular materials. It's going to ask me if I want to fix any of these normal maps. I'll just say yes, fix it now. And what should end up happening is these material FBM files should come in and it should set up all your materials for you. And if I jump back and forth now, you'll see if I go into the animation window here, she's got materials on her, albeit it's pretty dark in here inside of this little scene view. If I hit play, we can see there's our uppercut. And if I scroll down in this panel, you can see that there's a source take for each of these. So if I jump to jab, there's one for jab. If I jump to roundhouse, there's one for roundhouse. Actually, what it's doing is it's like rewriting the ones that are in here. So if I go back to this one, I want this one to be uppercut. And here are individual animations here. Okay. And it'll give you a start and an end frame to work with and so forth. Alright, so those are all the different animations. They all ended up coming through, which is great. So what we'll do is we'll drag and drop Game Girl in here, and her default animation is going to end up being that that particular one where she's doing the what was the uppercut, right? So I'm just going to zero her out in the scene. So I've got her imported, and I'll zero her in the middle of the scene. And what I'll do is I'll align my camera so we get a better view of her. And I'm also going to rotate the directional light a bit so we get more lighting on her. There we go. So I'm going to go to my hand view, pose her up in the scene. And then what I'll do is I'll select the main camera just so that we can see her visibility. If I go to game object and align with view, it'll align that camera in the game view here. Now if I hit the play button by default, we're not going to get anything. Okay, nothing's going to happen. And that's because this game girl that we brought into our scene as an asset does not have an animator component attached to her anywhere. So what we're going to have to do is give her an animator component. So I'm going to go over here to the add component, and I already had animation typed in from an earlier lesson, and I'll add this animator component. Now, this animator component also requires another asset that's called the animation controller, and that needs to be created in the project window. So I'm going to go to the plus symbol and create an animation controller, and I'll call this Game Girl controller. Alright, so we've got the animation controller, and we've also got the girl in the scene. We can now edit this animator, and to get the animator open, I have mine open in a tab in the game view here, but if you go up to Window, Animation, and then Animator, that'll give you the access to this window. Alright, so I've got the Game Girl animator selected and it's opened in here. We're going to need some sort of entry point for the animation here. Now the animations all show up here, and these animations are all going to be read only, right? So if they're read only, what ends up happening is you can't loop them. You can't select any of these features. So if I wanted this uppercut to loop, what I would have to do is duplicate it. So if I select it and hit Control D on the keyboard, you'll see that it duplicates the animation, and because there's no model in here for the preview, if I drag and drop this model in here, we'll see the uppercut preview now. So this one in particular we can turn on the loop for, okay? And what I'll do is I'll drag and drop it into the animation controller, right? And you can see it goes from entry right into uppercut. So if I hit play now, she should loop doing the uppercut, and she's not because I forgot to add the animation controller to the character. So before we hit play to test it, we need to set the animation controller here. And oh, that's the animation component. We want the animation controller, so we're going to remove this and select Animator component. And now we'll see that the controller shows up, and I'll put the Game Girl controller in there, and if I hit play now, she should play the animation. Great. Alright, so what we're going to do now is in our animator, we're going to set it up so that we can play these other animations off of this. What I'll do is I'll select all the other ones, and I'll duplicate those as well. I'm hitting Control D on the keyboard to duplicate these, and you can reorganize this a bit. So what we could do here is create a folder for the animations, because I want them to loop. I'm just duplicating these because I want them to loop. So I'll go in here and I'll move all the animations into this animations folder here. And then what I'll do is I'll select these and I'll set them all to loop. Alright. So now that I have all of those animations in there, we can start dragging them into our controller. So I'm going to drag this one here. I've got Cowboy Draw. I've got Cross Hook. I've got Jab. I've got Roundhouse, and that's all 5 all together. So for your assignment, what I'm going to want to do is be able to trigger any of these animations to play using the keyboard. And we'll set it to specific keys on the keyboard. But in reality, you'd be doing this to like your buttons on your controller and so forth. There's a couple of different ways we could do this. I think for this particular example, I might do the any state, but if I had an idle animation that I would consistently want to return to, I would probably not end up using this any state option. So I'm just going to put this here, and what we'll do is we'll transition to each of these animations from here. I'm just reorganizing the animator window. And what I'll do is I'll make a transition from here to here, here to here, here to here, here to here. Okay, and I think this will work. I don't think I need to make a transition from here to there, but maybe I do want to make a transition from here to here. Alright, so we should be able to go from any state to any one of these animations, and what we're going to need is some parameters to do that. So what I'll do is I'll create a trigger, and this will be, and you can do this with any of the other parameters as well, but what I'll do is I'll create one for draw, and spelling matters here, capitalization matters here, because we're going to need it in our code. I'll create another one for roundhouse. I'll create another one for jab. I'll create another one for cross hook. And I'll create another one for uppercut. Alright, and then what I can do here is I can go in and label each of these transitions now. So I'm going to go to, I'll select these transitions. These transition arrows you'll see come up in the inspector here. And it's saying what's the condition that's going to need to be met here. So what we're going to do, let's see here. Because this does not have exit time, which is what we want to be able to exit the animation at any time. So you see it says has exit time, this is unchecked. We need to create a condition. And this condition is for the uppercut. So what we'll do is we'll select the trigger that we created for uppercut there. Okay. So when uppercut gets triggered, that animation should play. And we're going to do that for each of these. So I'm going to add a condition here for draw. I'll add one here for cross hook. I'll add one here for jab. And I'll add one here for roundhouse. Alright, so we should be able to test this out. Let's hit play. And I need my animator window open. And if I select roundhouse, she then does the roundhouse. And then if I select jab, she then does the jab. And if I select cross hook, she does the cross hook. And then if I select uppercut, she goes back to uppercut. Pretty cool, right? So what we'll do now is we'll set up some code so that when we click on certain buttons on our keyboard, it plays those different animations. Alright, so let's go over to the project panel and open up a C# script, and we'll call this animation inputs. You can call it whatever you want, doesn't matter. Alright, so I have animation inputs open, and what I'll do is I'll double click it to open it up inside of Visual Studio. And now that this is open, we can start to program it. So the first thing we're going to need is a reference to the animation controller. So what we're going to do is say animator and we'll call it anim. And what we'll do is we'll make this public so that we can see it inside the inspector. And what we'll do is we'll drag and drop the animator into this. Alright. And now what we can do is, or we could do this dynamically. I could say anim is equal to get component animator. Alright, so it'll grab the component on whatever object the script is on. All right, so what we're going to need is some inputs here. And we're going to use the get key down. Typically, we're going to use the input axes for this, but in this particular example, we'll just use get key down. So we'll say input dot get key down. And then we'll say key code dot, and what I'll do is I'll do like Y-U-I-O on the keyboard. So I'll do Y. So if the input dot key code is Y, so if we're pushing the Y key, what we're going to do is say anim dot set trigger, and we will set the trigger for the uppercut. Actually, maybe what were the different ones we had here? So I'm just going to jump back to Unity real quick. Let's do draw. Right? Did I do one for draw? Yeah, I did. We'll do draw. So we'll start off with draw. So you got to make sure that the spelling and capitalization is the same. Okay. So I can copy this. And we'll do the key code for U. And in this particular situation, the next one we'll do is roundhouse. So roundhouse. Alright, so paste it in again. So I did U, next one will be I. And the key code for this will be jab. So roundhouse, jab, cross hook, uppercut, jab, cross hook, jab, cross hook, uppercut. So jab. I'm just going to paste these 2 more times. This is going to be cross hook. And uppercut. And our key codes for this will be O and P. So O and P. I think I have all of them, and they're all spelled correctly. So what we could do now is save this. We're done coding. It's as simple as that to be able to call an animation in Unity. Oops. Let's see here. Where did it go? There we go. So we're back in Unity, and what we'll do from here is take the Game Girl animation here and drag and drop this animation input script onto her. So if I select it, you'll see here that it sits up there. And if you want, you can drag and drop herself into here, but it's going to automatically assign that value. And if we hit play, she's doing her uppercut. And if I press Y, she does the draw. If I press U, she does the cross hook, the jab. So I'm able to cycle through all of the different animations. Pretty cool, right? So it's pretty easy to set this up. So for your major assignment 1, if you're using Unity, I'm expecting you to at least be able to call the different animations that you created, using the motion capture reference files that you edited in a similar system to what we're doing here. Okay, so I would expect a file like this for your final. Not for your final, but for your final version of your major assignment 1. Alright, so that's it for this one. I'll see you in the next video.